No, you're fine. Okay, today's learning plan. What we want to cover, a couple things up front, some announcements. Discuss the schedule update. That's why I make notes, because I would have forgotten that already. The schedule update.
I have a feeling I am the prairie dog thing.
Okay, couple date changes. Today is March 30th. We're doing file access and shares. Don't worry about that. That's not updated. Next week, April 6th, we're having group policies. And then, did I say March again? April 6th. April 13th is then doing with printing. We're moving our final exam way up. We were going to spend 2 weeks on file access and shares, and then 2 weeks in group policies. We're going to do 1 week in each of those, and then we're going to do a printing week. Printing will also be the time to review for the final. Printing is pretty basic, but we want to get through that. On the 20th and the 27th of April will be the final exams then. May 4th, I'll be gone to training, so there'll be no class. Have to figure out what... That's not spring break. Yeah, no. Spring break too. Figure out what you're going to have to do. If I review this might be the time to, if you need to correct anything or change anything, but this would be the... I have a feeling I have 2 spreadsheets here, because I thought I did this twice. So the final exam will be the 20th and 27th. It is still 2 weeks. Everything that we're doing is going to be on there, and we'll talk about the details as far as what you can bring into class or whatever. No class the 4th, and then the 11th. No, we won't be meeting for class. I might still have you do something possibly. And then May 11th will be the final exam review if we need to, and any corrections, and any kind of wrap-up, whatever. Boy, that'd be a good day for like a end-of-year party or something. Final review.
You're not going to be here on...
and potluck. There you go. We also have change administrator password settings to not... and change the administrator password settings to not expire. On your servers, you might realize that's forcing you to change your administrator's password, and you say, oh no, what do I do? You don't have much of a choice. You have to change the password. I would, at that point, suggest that you would log in, go under the account settings. Now you know how to do this. And then change that password to never expire. Change it back to our original password. It does allow you to go back to your original password. We do not have any policies in effect yet that limits us from doing that. So if anybody's running into issues as far as their servers saying you have to change your administrator account, that you have to change the password, go ahead and do that. We're also having a lot of machines that are expiring or basically saying they have to be reactivated. I've been having mixed success with this on these machines. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because it's part of the domain or whatever. But you have a command line option of extending or rearming the evaluation period. And again, just this last weekend, I was running into some issues that I was doing this and still wouldn't rearm. So I'm not sure if it was a domain issue or my computer issues, or maybe I've rearmed past the amount that I could do. If that's the case, you're going to have to reinstall. There isn't a whole lot that you can do. How you do that? Let me put my screen on your screen in a window so you can sort of see. It's on the learning plan for today. It's SLMGR, which is software license manager, and then it's rearm. So it's not Slimger, rearm. It's software license manager rearm. So if you go to the command prompts, type in CMD. It's best to right click on here and then run as administrator. Then you don't have to worry about any issues. My machine's already activated, so I'm not going to actually run this, but it's SLMGR space dash rearm. And that should give you another 90 days or 60 days or only 3 days? Oh, there's other ways, whatever. But we're less than 90 days less than semester, so if you need to reinstall, it's a good practice for the final anyway. Continuing on, I did on a separate document just go over some basic VM setup steps. I included most of those right here just as a quick review. Not specific, well, it is specific for this class, but for all your classes, just a quick review. When you're creating virtual machines, create the VM hardware, sort of build that first. Don't install the operating system while you're doing it. Then come back and insert the CD and install the operating system. You should install VMware tools. One thing that I've added to my notes, which I've done to some of my servers, is boot back and restart your virtual machine into firmware. And you can do that. Oh, wrong one. That's for a client. I will go to VMware Workstation. Let's close that. You can go to VM, power onto firmware. And when you do that, well, I'll just walk you through this one. And you do have the option under main. This is not a graphical user interface. Click inside of it first, arrow down to keyboard features, hit enter. And now the num lock on most of these virtual machines are off by default. And it's very frustrating when you're on a server and you go to the IP address configuration, you just start typing your IP address, only to find out that you're arrowing all over the place instead of going to the num lock. So I just put that on the checklist for something you want to do. To change it, you hit the space bar. You have on, off, and auto. I'm not sure what auto does. I just want it on. So I turn it on, and then I hit F10 to save, and then it resaves. Once that's saved in there, I'll go and let this start. And I hope it starts. There we go. Okay. So you can restart and pretty much you have it set. That is a firmware thing. It's saved with the virtual machine, so it should only be a one-time thing. You can also edit your VMX file for faster shutdowns on a USB drive specifically. And I'll sort of walk you through this. You want to shut down the virtual machine and then make sure you close the window. In the VMs folder, locate the VMX file, which is the actual configuration file. That's where all the settings are going to be. Make a copy of it. This is really important. There's been a couple times I've played with this and I've edited it and obviously did something wrong and it became corrupt. So it's really important that you do make a copy of it. And then edit the following using Notepad. Don't use Word. I use Notepad++, whatever it's going to be. You really have to look. If you do not find these lines, you can add them. In a couple instances, I've found that some of the values have already been in there. If you enter it a second time, the VM won't launch. And it's going to give you a corrupt VMX file error. And you're not going to want that. So you really have to look through carefully. It's towards the bottom usually. But by adding these values, you're able to really save the shutdown time. Save the file in exit Notepad, and then go ahead and start your virtual machine again. So those are the steps to do that. Showing you the virtual machine. If I do a Control Insert, let me log in here. Once I'm logged in, if I right-click on here and then do Shutdown, I already applied these settings to the VMX, and so once it actually does a shutdown, it comes back to the settings screen pretty quickly by doing that. If I want to show you how to do that editing, I'm actually going to close the server, completely close it, so it's shut down, and I'm going to close the window. As long as it's open, even though it's not running, as long as it's open in VMware Workstation, it's a locked file. And it's just like a Microsoft Word document. If you have the file open in Word, you can't do anything with it. So once I have shut that down, let me minimize this, go to my file browser, and I took a lot of snapshots. Did I miss it? It's usually towards the top. Oh, right here. Server 12-2 VMX. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to edit it with Notepad++. No, I don't want to download that. And this is what it looks like. I ended up having these files, those lines put in here. I had a couple that were already there in this case, and I just updated those in here. So they're listing the learning plan, what the values should be. Actually, some of these things have changed. Probably we'll go into the BIOS and making those setup changes. Make sure you save it. File, save. I didn't make any changes. Oh, sorry. Back up one step. Copy it first. So here's a copy of it. And then go in and edit it. So always make sure you have a copy of it. So it's not that hard to change, and it does make a tremendous difference. Okay, after you've done this and sort of configured your VMX file, then you can take a base image snapshot. That will include that BIOS update, the BIOS change. It's just everything at that point. Even taking one before configuring the operating system. Configure the operating system, including, like, you know, I guess I should put examples. IP addresses, antivirus, updates, etc. And then take another snapshot of your base operating system configuration. So you kind of have a very clean one and another one after you've done configuration, but that should include everything that's done up on top already. So, questions on this? The question was, did I want all these things done for the final exam or when you're working with exams? I'm going to say no. These are good practices for production and for the class period time. And these are just suggestions. I'm not going to grade you on this part ever, even the class or the final exams. These just is a really good idea to benefit you and to get good practice of doing it. It's not specifically geared towards our server administration part, and so it's not going to be graded. And it's just going to take extra time that's not going to be really required. This is going to help you in the long run if you need to go back to something. I guess on the final, it wouldn't be a bad idea either, just because also you mess something up. Do you want to reinstall that server from scratch? Or do you want to go back to the original snapshot? But I'm going to leave those up to your choices. Those are all decisions that you make. If you want to speed through and maybe have to go all the way back to the beginning, or do these steps, it's really how you want to do it. You will not be graded though. The Windows 8 connecting to Server 2012 will most likely be on the final because we're only working with Server 2012 servers. If we have time at the end of today, we'll take a look back at the Windows 7 to 2008 connection. I do definitely want to get through the disk part or the file system stuff today, and I probably want to start with that first and then maybe come back to the RSAT later if that's okay. We're supposed to add both servers to it. It doesn't make any difference as long as you can make the one connection to show it's going to work. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, because if you do that, you can manage each individual server. The thing that we will be using with remote server administration is Active Directory users and computers. And so as long as you connect to either one of them, their Active Directory databases are linked together. So you don't have to do both of them. As long as you're updating Active Directory on one of them, it's going to be automatically propagated to the other. For good practice, it's Probably not a bad idea to add both of them, though. Okay, what we're going to do now is, right now we have a server. And inside that server we have a CPU, and we have RAM, and we have a hard drive. Let me calibrate this. Now, a couple of practices with hard drives. Obviously, on a server, we'd have some kind of huge RAID array or some kind of disk access or whatever. But we're going to make it kind of simple and use just single disks. But we're going to have a separate disk for our operating system and a separate disk for our data. So right now, we have a disk with our full operating system on there. And what we could do, in fact, if this was our operating system, it's just a bunch of files. We could have an operating system on there, and then have some data underneath there, and then sort of have the directory structure underneath there. And we'll talk about the directory structure in a bit. What are pros and cons to this kind of example? What would be the advantage of this? Why would I have the data and the operating system all together on one disk? And Jordan?
Well, having the data and operating system on the same disk saves money and space. But if you have them on separate, then you could easily transfer it to the computer, or you can back it up easier.
So you're already talking me out of the single disk one. You gave me a reason, an excellent reason to do it, which is that's what it comes with. It comes with a disk, so why not use it? And it saves time because it's already there or whatever like that. Right now, this is a 60 gigabyte hard drive, completely unrealistic for a real server. Very usable for what we're doing in here because we're just having the operating system and a couple files, but we certainly could do that. It's already there. Why don't we just start using it? It's not a good idea overall to mix your data with your operating system. And for security reasons, because now you have people accessing basically the same physical drive where your operating system is, which is where all your security is. Even for backups, for redundancy, for all kinds of different things. At the minimum, what you would want to do, if you're going to have a single disk, is at least have different partitions. So this might be your C drive and this might be your D drive, but at least have a different partition. You really should keep, at least logically, your data separate from your operating system on a server. It's a good idea to do this on a desktop, but even more so on a server environment because you're going to, for all the reasons that Jordan said. One thing is just for, backing up. I can back up this entire drive, and that disk that's virtual, it's this partition, but thinks it's a separate disk. I can back it up very easily. I can say I'm going to back up this whole drive. I don't have to worry about the Windows operating system or if the files are open, the registry, all that kind of stuff. I'm just doing the data. A second major part of this is the operating system. If the operating system is toast, it doesn't affect my data. My data is still all there, and I can reinstall or update or replace my operating system, and my data is completely intact. If I had this as a single volume, when you go to replace your operating system, you're wiping out the entire disk, including your data. So you're going to have to back up all your data, and then you'd have to install your new operating system and restore put your data back. The operating system doesn't do a whole lot on a server, but there is still disk access for it, but there's a lot of disk access for the data drive. And so that would be an advantage of putting them on two physical different disks. So right now they're on the same physical disk and even with separate partitions. So you do that kind of protection as far as security-wise and data backup-wise, but you still have one physical disk and you're kind of sharing it with that. What we're going to propose of doing is adding a second disk to our virtual server and making it a data volume and having it completely separate for that. So to do that in a virtual environment, it's actually pretty easy installing additional disks. So let me open up my server, and you can do this while it's running. You don't. It's a hot swappable drive. You just open up your server case and dump another disk inside of it. Watch first, and then I'll let you do it right after I'm done doing it. But kind of watch the steps and take notes. Well, actually, I guess the notes are in the learning plan, aren't they? I'll show you anyway. There we go. Okay, I'm going to sign in, Control-Alt-Insert. And if I take a look at it right now, if I click on the file manager, I can see I have a local disk C. And even though it's only 60 gig, I've only used 10 gig of it, just the operating system. But this is where all your drivers end up going and all your updates go, and this is where all your logs go, so that definitely could fill up. So we want to add a second drive to this. I'm going to go to, I'm going to right click on the start on the Windows icon and go up to disk management so we can get a little bit more physical look at the drives. So right now I have a disk 1 which has a 350 megabyte system reserved area, kind of like in Windows 7 and Windows 8 we have a 100 megabyte, here's a 350, and then I have my C partition, which is my operating system, and my CD-ROM drive. Well, I'm going to insert another disk into my computer. I do that through the virtual environment. So I go up to the menu up on top, and I choose VM, and then Settings. And way at the bottom, there's an Add button. I want to add hardware. I'm going to add hardware. And it says what you want to add. I can add a hard disk, CD-ROM drive, floppy disk, another network adapter, USB controller, and so on. We want to add a new hard drive. If I click Next, it's going to suggest a SCSI, which is perfectly fine. We're not getting into disk management stuff where it requires us to be IDE. And this is hot swappable. This is what we can add while it's still turned on. If we wanted to add an IDE drive, it would have to be powered off. We could do SATA, because SATA is hot swappable as well, but it recommends a SCSI and we'll stick with it. Create a new virtual disk file, and it's going to default to the 60 gig again. You can make it as big as you want. It is going to be basically, it's called thin provision. It's only going to take up as much physical disk space as it needs to have, even if I chose like a terabyte on here. The 60 gig is fine. We're not putting that many files out there. And I click Next. It comes up with its own new file name. And then I'm done. It actually says there's a new hard disk on there, and I click OK. And when I look back at disk management already picked up a new disk. So this new disk is sitting there saying, hey, there's a new disk. We're only going to work with a data drive on our first server, so 12-2. We could have multiple file servers. Then you actually have different rights, though, for different servers. We're going to make it kind of simple today and just work with one server, have all of our data on one server designated for that. In reality, you could have ones for different departments. You could have an accounting server. You could have a human resources server, with their files. We're going to dump everything together just for today. Okay, so we have this disk 1. It's unknown. It's 60 gigabytes and it's offline. So it's not in a really great state at this point. There's a couple things we have to do to make it work. The first thing is to right-click where it says disk 1, and we have to put it online. And so it just changed down here from saying offline to not initialized. So if it's not initialized, what do you think we have to do next? Right-click on it and initialize it. And it's going to ask how you want it to be initialized. We're just going to keep it very simple, using the master boot record for disk 1. And now we have disk 1. It's online. It's just a basic disk at this point. I still can't put anything on it though because there's no volume. So again, there's several steps to this. The next step is right-clicking on the open area here and choosing a new simple volume. And we're going to end up using the whole 60 gigs. We could make, multiple partitions on here, if we wanted to separate it by, again, department or by user, whatever. But we're going to just make it one big disk. So we'll use the full file size. And just because later on I want to move my drive letters around, it defaults to E. I'm going to make it to F right now, and this will make a little bit more sense later on as I change my drive letters around. Ultimately, I'm going to want this D, but I already have a D drive. It's my CD-ROM drive. I'm going to move that to E, and then this drive back to D, and I'll show you that whole cycle there. And I click Next. This is also another important part. It can be done later on, but the volume name, I don't want it to be called new volume. That'd be a really weird data volume name of new volume. So I'm actually going to call it data. And then I click Next on there and then Finish. It does a quick format, and now it's up and running. So I have my C drive, a D drive, and an F drive. Just to get all my drive letters the way that I want them to be, I'm going to rename some of these things. So right now this is an F drive. My CD-ROM drive is my D drive. I'm going to want this to become my E drive. So if I right-click on it, I can change the drive letter. So if I right-click on my CD-ROM drive, I can change the drive letter. And I click on Change, and then I choose E. Now, if I had kept my data volume defaulted to E, it's not. I would have to do another couple steps to it. So, kind of thinking I had to do that. Why didn't this change? Oh, there it goes. Okay. Now I right-click on my data drive. I'm sorry, I have to click on the actual drive part. Change the drive letter and path. Change. I'm going to change this to D. Click OK. And so now I have C, D, and E. If I close Disk Manager, this popped up. It's found a new disk. It wants to format it. I already took care of this, so I can hit Cancel. And now you can see your disks in here. C drive, D drive, and E drive. Open up your D drive, and now you have an empty disk waiting for you to do stuff with. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes for you to do that as well. If you didn't follow along, go ahead and actually create your D data drive. The first thing I want to show is the server administrator, the administrator not having the password expire. Just a quick review of that. Hey, why don't you walk me through it? How would I do that? I don't want my administrator's password to expire. Where would I go? Tools.
Active Directory, users and computers.
Users and computers. Good.
I go to Dropbox.
Okay.
Users.
Users.
Administrator. Right click.
I can double click or right click properties. It's the same thing. And then account.
And then in the checkbox, user password number.
Yeah, there you go. And if you apply
I
that.
didn't know if you're asking me. I just started talking.
No, anybody to do that. So excellent. So walking through, that's how you do that. You don't want to be messing with group policies or local policies or anything like that yet. Okay, if I change it here, if I reset the password using Active Directory.
Mail works. First time I was like, mail.
So I made something different. Now let me change it back to the original. Yeah. If you use Active Directory users and computers, it lets you change it back. It doesn't have any history because you are the administrator. You are forced on the password. That'd be really bad if the administrator tries to change your password and says, oh, you've already used that one. It's like, wait a second, I shouldn't know that. So yes, if you're changing the administrator password, do it through Active Directory users and computers. You will have to, if you ever get the prompt, you will have to do it before you log in, change it to anything you want, then come back into this way and reset it to our special password. File. Yes, the other question was the VMX file. Where is it? Why can't you see it or whatever? This is just in the way. Okay, one thing is I have my extensions shown. So if I look under Server 2012, you're going to find a bunch of files with the extensions. It's going to be the icon that looks like the 3 pieces of paper. It's going to be the icon that looks like 3 pieces of paper. But I have my extensions showing. If you want to see your extensions, how would you do that? Anybody want to walk me through this? It is not intuitive. You think you go under like View Extensions? No, it's under Organize, and then it's under Search Options, of course. And then we click on View. Then we click on Uncheck hide extensions for known file types. So if you uncheck this box, hide the extensions for known file types, then your extensions show up. By default, that's not on. I guess I get in the habit of doing that all the time, and I forgot to tell you that. How'd you get there? Why doesn't mine show that way? That's because I'm doing things I'm not telling you. So if it looks this way, though, you should be able to search by the icon. You can also search by the type. It is the virtual machine configuration file. I can. So if you can't see the VMX extension, look for the icon or the description for the file type, VMware Virtual Machine Configuration. If you want to see the extensions, which I don't know, I've gotten the habit of doing it forever and just always do it, you go to Organize, Folder and Search Options. Then you click on View. And then you don't say Show Extensions. There's so many double negatives. So you're unchecking the hide. So I don't want to hide the extensions for known file types. Wait until we get into group policies. It's even worse as far as double negatives. Check this if you don't want that to happen. What? Go figure. And now you can see the extensions, and then you'll see that it's actually a VMX file. I have a lot of snapshots. So here's a VMX, and here's a copy of my VMX. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, okay, now we have a data drive. What are we going to do with, how do we store stuff on there? We can have a really long discussion on this, but there's a couple main things that we probably want to point out. It's just like sorting your Legos. There's no wrong way of doing it, but what kind of makes sense for organization. And you could organize it by project. You could have, here's a project 1, and, project 2. You could have it probably more in line with what we're working with our directory structure already. We have an accounting department, sales department, probably by department. So working with GOPA, we would have sales and accounting and HR and things like that. So pretty much listing by department would be very, very valuable. That way sales can have all their stuff together and accountants can have all their stuff together in HR and all the rest of the departments. What other things might be valuable as far as, having a folder for them? Vendors, okay. Possibly some outside access or outside organizations or entities, okay. Think more within our company already, though, that we have designed. We have sales and we have accounting and HR and the rest of the departments. What else might be valuable? I'm sorry? Advertising? Okay. Well, again, think of just the GOPA. You're right. That fall under the general category of departments. So we'd have our departments listed. Each of our departments, we have. Go ahead, Colin. What?
We need the IT department.
Yeah.
Right. And right. I mean, so we have sales, accounting, IT, operations, and
We need the IT people.
oh, executive.
Special.
Okay, so those are the departments that we have within GOPA. So you're right, list them all. But okay, so we list the departments. In addition to departments, what other folders might we have special? You know what? I should probably. Oh, that's pretty cool. I guess I can do that.
You have more color than you think.
Okay, what else? How about managers? Do you think managers ever need anything special? So the sales manager, or the accounting manager, or human resources manager, they might have access to something that the rest of the people in their department may not have access to, right? Where would we put that? Where would be a good place to put those? Probably within each department. So if I have a sales folder for all the sales department information, I might want to have a sales manager folder underneath there that only the sales manager could access. Maybe it's reviews, maybe it's policies or procedures. I guess those would be public information, right? Maybe they can edit it or something. And sales manager. Same for accounting. We have accounting manager. And we have an HR manager, an IT manager, an operations manager. We don't have a manager under executive, but we do have a president. And maybe there'll be a folder specifically for the president that we're going to come to way later on and say, as that person takes over that president role, they'll be able to have access to that president folder. Now, if they get pulled out of that position, then they will no longer have access to that president role. So we always want to be thinking of rights and security and sort of organizationally as far as files and things go. Okay. In addition to the departments then and those special roles, what other things have we have already created that we might want to have a folder for? And that's what we have already. Organizational units really match our departments. Anything else? Is there any time that, maybe sales and accounting want to share some stuff? Where would that go?
Under shared folder.
Under shared folder. And how you name this is kind of up to you.
Slash accounting.
Sometimes it's called shared. In some organizations they use common. I think in this case today I'll call it shared. A shared directory. And in reality you can have pretty much everybody have access to that. And then underneath that you can make special folders if you wanted to make it secure for certain areas. And I'll show you that whole idea of sharing it and securing it a little bit later on, and you'll be able to apply it how you want. We also have general public groups as well, like the managers as a whole. All the managers are part of a managers group. How do we take care of them? Probably under shared, and maybe having managers folder. So the accounting manager, the IT manager, the HR manager, can all share stuff under that one common managers folder. Maybe there's a special team or a project that we're working on that's going to involve different people. So you could have a project folder underneath there that only the proper people would have access to it. It's not department specific. It kind of brings it all underneath there. There's other things under shared that, maybe like policies and procedures. This might be a special type of situation where you would want everybody to have access to it, but only have certain people be able to change it. So you don't want anybody just changing your corporate policies like, oh, you know what? Attendance is now optional.
Wow. Nice.
So you want everyone to see it, but not be able to change it. So this might be just a general idea. We're just looking at just the directory structure to begin with. We're not looking at securing it right now, just kind of the general idea of it. Working on servers and coming up with the folder structure and actually managing it. Let me get back to my virtual machine here and log back in. Unlike Active Directory users and computers, that kind of stuff of having to use Server Manager and going to tools and bringing up a separate tool for this, of working with users and groups and organizational units, I really can do most of my file system management right from the file manager. So right from Windows Explorer, I can open it up, I open up my D drive, and I can start creating my stuff right from here. So I can make a new folder, and let's just go through the example. I create an IT folder. Nope, not share with. A new folder. I want to make one for accounting. I'll type out accounting. A new folder for HR. A new one for sales. Another one for executive. What am I missing? Operations, ops. And we could definitely have a vendor one or whatever. I don't have that in my GOPA example, so I'm going to stick with my GOPA org chart, but I certainly could put a vendor or outside resources on there. But I will add the other one for common or shared, and I decide go back and forth. Let's use shared this time. If I want to make subfolders, I certainly could. Under IT, I can make a new folder. I'll have to open it. New folder, IT Manager. Under executive, I don't have an executive manager. I have a president. And I'll skip vice president for now. These are just examples, and you can apply this as much as you want to whatever extent you want. HR manager. Oh, I did that one. Do that one. IT. I'm just making all these folders. And I'll make another one. Okay, so that's how you would go do that. Just take a minute and create those folders on your server. Okay, so I just threw together this organizational structure really quick. No users, just the groups. And if you're creating a system to begin with, that's all you really need. You don't need the users until later on when you start working with them. Okay, working with our file system over here now. So now I have the different directories over here. And I want to talk about shares and permissions. And they kind of go hand in hand, but they're two completely different things. Going over to my drawing. Oh, I guess I can't. I have to put this in the back. When I have a data volume and I have these directories on here like IS and sales, IS and sales, you want to give certain people rights to them. And that's where you have permissions, and you use what's called an access control list. And that's used for all kinds of different things, access control list. An access control list is made up of two parts. Who can do what? And typically, we're going to really, really simplify this and make this, pretty as basic as we can. the who in the far majority of the time, in fact, you should do this in every situation that you possibly can, the who should be a group. You should avoid the who's as users because it gets really complicated if you have to change that user or do different things with that user. If you put them in a group, by adding somebody to that group, they're going to have access to all those different things at the same time. And as soon as you pull them out, they'll be removed from all those accesses, from all those different folders at the same time. Once you start work with individuals, you have to go back and remember and look at all their rights and where they got them from. It gets really confusing. The what is what can they do in that folder. And there's a lot to NTFS permissions. There's tons and tons of variations and different ways that you can put these things together. We're going to really boil it down to 3 options. One is you don't have rights. That means you can't do anything. You can't see it, you can't read it, you can't write to it, nothing. You just can't access it. The second is read only. You can see the stuff and you can open it up, but that's it. And then the third is that you can see it, open it, and edit it. So otherwise known as full control. So no rights, full access, or something in between where you can see it but not make changes to it. And there's really a whole lot more to that, and we'll get into that next semester. But if we can get this far, it's going to really be helpful. If you look in the sales folder, who should have access to sales? Who else?
Salespeople.
Everybody in sales. So the sales group that I just created should have access to the sales folder. What rights do they have to the sales folder? All of them. If it's my department, if I'm a salesperson and I have a folder designated for all of our sales stuff, I should be able to put new files there, new client contacts, whatever dealing with my job that needs to go there, and put that out there. Who should have access to the IS folder? All the IS people. So when we work with that level of rights, it's pretty simple. So if I go back to my server, and I look at accounting, and I right-click on it, and I go to properties, I can go to security. And these are the people that have access to that folder right now. Now, one thing I should back way up and show you is just by the very nature of creating this data drive, if I look at the security or permissions on this data drive, by default, all the users can read it. Read and execute, list the folder contents, which means you can browse it, and then to either read the content or if it's an executable, read and execute it. That's your read only. So every time you create a new folder, by default, everyone has rights to be able to read from it. We don't necessarily want that to happen. We don't want the salespeople to be able to open and read, even though they can change, all the accounting information, or all the IT information, or all the president information, correct? So this is where we have that who can do what, the access control list. And we want to edit this. We don't want the users to be able to do those kinds of things. So we click edit, and then we take them off the who list. Now we could have clicked down on users and actually just uncheck those things that we don't want them to have, but we really don't need them to do anything at that level. So we can click remove. And I click apply. Now, when I go to my subfolder of accounting and go to properties and security, they're no longer there. The reason they are there to begin with is because of inheritance. If you have access to a folder at a higher level, all those rights are going to flow on down to the folders beneath that. So if I give you all access to one folder, you're going to have all access to the folders underneath that, which makes perfect sense. If I'm a salesperson, I have full access to the sales folder, and I create another folder called contacts, it's not going to be a sudden hidden thing that only you can access. It's going to be part of the sales folder, so everybody's going to have access to it. So if you ever see things that don't belong there, and later on we're going to do this on purpose, we can limit that inheritance. We want that to come down, but only to a certain point. Users, we're going to get rid of altogether. We don't need them to having root access to the whole drive. We'll grant access where we want them to have access. So now now I'm working with the accounting folder. Now I go back to edit that properties, that access control list of who can do what, and we click an add. And we can just start typing an account and check a name, and it's going to find all kinds of groups. I'm going to find an account group, and I click OK, and I'll give them full control. So now the people in accounting should have full control to the account folder. And I click OK. If I click on accounting, I can see that they do have full control. I'm going to go down to the next level as well and go to executive and go to properties and security. And see, users isn't there anymore because I took it out of the root, so it's not going to be inherited. But I do want to add the executive group to here and give them full control. And now you can see that anybody in the executive group will have full control to that folder. At that very high level, just at the department level, go ahead and do the other ones for the other four departments. Who should have access to shared? And I have a couple ways of doing everybody. There actually is in everyone person, or group I should say. It's a system group. Now the bad thing about everyone is that's truly everyone, whether you're logged in or not. So if you're connected to my network without even authenticating, you're part of everyone. You may not want to do that. That may not be a good one to do. There's another one just called users, which are any users or anybody that you have designated in the system. So that's another way of looking at it. And those are the ones that we want to include. So any user within our system, we can do it. So now users should have full control to that shared folder. So now anybody from sales can make a folder and tell the accounting people, hey, I put something on the shared directory. You can go grab it from this folder or whatever. We're going to secure it a little bit more in a bit, but right now just kind of create those folders and give them those rights at that top level. Okay, what we've done so far then is gone through that whole directory and we're saying who has access to what. Very basic. Now, one thing Windows does though is even though the people have permissions to it, they still can't get to it because you have to be logged on locally to be able to access those local drives. If you want to access a drive or a folder from another computer, you, in addition to setting up the access control list with the permissions, you also need to set up shares. And this is where it gets a little confusing because a share is a window to that folder. So if I have a directory structure in here, just showing up data, and here I'm just using sales as an example. And the sales people have full control. I'll put full FC for full control. The sales group, the access control looks like this. This is on the server. On my workstation, and I log in, I can still log in as a salesperson, but I can't access it. I can't get there. When you create a share, it's like opening a window that you can look through to get there. The shares can have completely different rights and security than the permissions do. And so a share could open up just a little bit and say that you can basically do a read-only. So anything on the sales folder, you'll be able to do a read-only, even though internally I said that you have full control. And so it gets really strange this way. As far as, who can even have rights? You can even have a different, and that means that sales would have read-only to the sales folder, but internally it's an NTFS and they have full control. You could be completely messed up and say that IT has read-only share rights. IT doesn't have any rights at all to the sales folder, and so IT can see the share but not be able to access anything, and it just gets so confusing. Not sure why it's done that way, but that's what we have to deal with. To avoid all those issues, Microsoft even suggests this, is you make the window all the way open. So for any share, for any window that you're building, give it to everyone, I can't spell everyone, everyone, and you give everyone full control to every share. And it's like, okay, so you're opening up the window for everybody, and then you're limiting it based on the NTFS control inside. So everyone can see the share, everyone can sort of look through the window, but once you get in, that's where the permissions that we just set up to do. In addition with this, there's a couple philosophies or ideas or concepts of how to create shares. We have a sales folder, and we have accounting folder, and we have an IT folder, and we could create windows basically for each of those. So here's a share, here's an IT share, here's an accounting share, and there's definitely pros and cons for doing it this way. The advantage is that the accounting people can go right to accounting, and it looks like a local drive to them. The downside of that then is that if you had access to multiple folders, you'd actually have to come in multiple different ways. And so you could set up individual shares. And I'll just show you how to do a share first of all, and then I'll come back to a different way of giving the shares, I guess. So going to my server, I want to work with a share on my, let me log in. Since I only have sales users recreated, that's the folder I want to work with, is my sales folder. So I right click on it, go to properties, and create a share. Now, we always use advanced sharing. Just don't even use simple sharing, just kind of pretend that doesn't exist, and always use advanced sharing. And the first step is to share the folder by clicking on the checkbox, sharing the folder. It defaults to the name of the folder that you have shared. So if it's the sales folder, I'm going to make a sales share. But you could call it anything you want. You could actually call it sales share or my files. Usually keeping it the same as the directory name is very advantageous. Now, we have a permissions button down here. This is not NTFS file system permissions to the folder. This is who's going to get access to the share. Keep the two different. We have share permissions and we have file system permissions. This is share permissions. And this, what's sort of recommended in all the material, is that we give everyone full control. By default, you only get read rights. So even though sales has full rights to everything in the sales folder, if they use this share, they can only read the files. They couldn't write them or change them or make any other delete things or whatever. But if we give everyone full control, we kind of opened up that window. Now they have full control to that. So I just created sales share on the sales folder very quickly. And over here, my Windows 8 computer, I have two salespeople, Joshua and Jacob, and I logged in as Jacob right now. So if I want to access this, and let me click on network and see, turn on network discovery. And you need to have administrator access to do that. And sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't show up right away, that's okay. We can type in the server name up on top. So if you go //, that's the UNC convention, / server name / share. So this would be SRV 12-2 /, and it all comes up with our shares. And I have this sales share right now, and if I click on it, and it says I can't access it. I don't have permissions. What don't I have permissions to? Okay, let me check my rights back on my server. Who knows what I did? Okay, sales folder, properties, security. Oh, I never put sales back on here. I had them all, and then I lost them all when I lost my server. So the sales group should have full control. Okay, let's try that again. Oops. Oh, SRV12-2 / sales. And that's the sales folder that I then have. And I should have full rights, so I should be able to put a new folder out there. I should be able to put new documents out here. Oh, here's a text document. I should be able to edit the text document, save it, rename it, delete the folder. And so I should be able to do everything out there in the sales folder because I'm part of the sales department. And I go ahead and do the same thing for accounting. I do the same thing for information systems or whatever. I should also have access. Well, I don't have access yet. I also have a shared folder. I could create another shared share, and I could access through different ways. One way of eliminating, and I like you to do this actually, create shares for them and practice with it. It just gives you practice working with shares. But ultimately, we're going to come back and just make one share. So I'm going to go back to the sales folder and go to properties and sharing and advanced sharing. And I'm not going to share this anymore. I'm going to go back to the data volume as a whole, and I'm going to share the whole data volume. And there's pros and cons to this. This is just the way that we're going to end up doing this. Working with sharing, advanced sharing, I want to share it. And by default, it's the drive name, which is the D drive. But I want the share name to be the full data name to it. Who should have access to that? Everyone should have full control to the share itself. And then I click OK and close. What that's going to do then, make sure that I have all the rights here. Users, good. Okay. What that's going to do then is when I go back to my Windows 8 over here, is I have a data share now. And now I can see all my folders. So I can go under sales, and I can see my text, and I can still do everything underneath here that I want to do. In addition, I have full access to the shared folder. So I should be able to make new folders underneath here, make another new folder, make a text document and whatever. What's that?
Geez, a lot of things made in my folder.
My new folder, lots of new folders. I'm logged in as Jacob right now, and so I have access to the sales folder and the shared folder. What rights do I have to the accounting folder? None. If I try to access it, it tells me it has none. Did you watch a video that deals with, isn't that confusing? Oh man, I have access to the executive area. Let me check this out. Oh no, I don't. How can you avoid that whole confusion? What can we use? Yeah. These are your videos that I think I assigned to you. Not how, but he should have talked about it.
Yeah.
Anybody remember the name? It's called ABE, ABE, or Access-Based Enumeration. That's what it's called. And it's a really long, complicated name. Basically, there's a check mark that says, if this is checked, don't show any folders you don't have rights to. So I'm going to show you this one more step, and then I'm going to stop for a minute and let you get caught up on working with these shares and permissions and access-based enumerations. But I'm going to show this one step first. This does require a special tool. You can't do that by using the properties and sharing. Nothing under here is going to allow us to do the access-based enumeration. We actually need a special tool for shares. So if we go up to our tools area, our server manager on our server, and go to tools, we have our, where is my shares? I just can't see it. No, it is. Hang on. No. It's not in the tools. It's underneath file storage over in system over here. We have our little icon over here for file and storage services. And then we have a shares icon here, a list over here. This lists all of our shares. So we don't do it under the tools. It's just off the menus on the left-hand side. Sorry about that. If I right-click on a share, this is how I can manage that specific share. You can create shares from here as well, and there's advantages to doing it from here. It's a little bit more complicated. I want to show the simple way first. Next year, you'll get into the more complicated ways. But if I want to work with the properties of this data share, I right-click on it and go to Properties. Once I choose the properties, I'm looking specific. Now, this is a very specific step to do, so kind of keep track of where this is. Let me just even back up. Go all the way back. All the way back. There we go. File and Storage Services. Clicking on Shares. Right-clicking on the share I want to work with. Properties. It's under Settings. And underneath Settings is the very first one. Enable Access-Based Enumerations. Access-Based Enumeration. ABE. And you apply it. It only displays the files and folders that a user has permissions to access. So in the case back over here, my user Jacob does not have access to executive and HR. So once I enable that and I hit, I should just hit, something disappeared.
Executive disappeared.
Why do I still see the other ones?
You should be able to do that.
Well, actually, it looks like I'm getting a shorter list each time. I guess it takes a while for it to go through and do this.
Yeah.
I've never caught that before. I guess I've never gone back in this quickly. Well, it's getting shorter, but I still have a couple of extras. But the executive and sales and operations and the rest of them disappeared. I certainly shouldn't have any access to IS or accounting. Maybe even if I log out, maybe it'll just speed things up as well. Sign out. Log in as Jacob. It should take effect pretty fast, especially working with our network. So under now that I've been there, I click under network, and now I have server 12, data. Okay. So I just have sales and shared. So everything else disappeared, so it doesn't confuse you. Those are the only two things that I have access to. So if I click on sales, again, I can do anything I want here. I can delete things, modify things, whatever I want. So go ahead and take a few minutes. Work with shares, work with the file permissions, and make sure that you enable the access-based enumeration, the ABE, and see what it does. Login is a different people. You might have to type the share name up on top, / serve 12-2 / whatever your share name is, if you didn't make an overall data one.
You should be able to do this on your 12-4.
Sure, you can use your 12-4 if you want. Just make sure that's what you type in then for your path up on top for what you're connecting to. Yep. We have one more topic that we want to cover, and that's when we get into things like we have a sales folder, and underneath the sales folder, we're going to have a sales manager folder, and we want the sales people, the sales manager to have access to this folder, but not the rest of the salespeople. And that's going to deal with limiting inheritance. But you need to understand the permissions and shares first and feel really good about them before we start limiting that inheritance. So go and try that for a few minutes. So if we have a folder over here for sales manager, maybe we only want the sales manager to have access to it and not the rest of the users. So again, like in sales manager, I have folders and files in here. to do that, I want to work with the file permissions again. And as I said, everything starts from the top and flows on down. So if I look under Sales Manager and go to Properties and goes to Security, you're going to see that I have sales having all rights. But it's grayed out. Grayed out means that's inherited. I got it from someplace else. Well, how am I going to do this then? Well, I want only the managers to have rights and not the salespeople. So if I click on Edit, and then I say, well, I'll just get rid of the sales and I'll add the sales manager to it. It's going to say you can't do that. You can't remove the sales group because this object is inheriting permissions from its parent. In order to do that, you must first prevent the act of inheriting to begin with. Long and complicated, not sure why it's done this way, but it is done this way. So where inheritance comes in, you have to cancel all the way out of here. It's still in the Permissions tab, but it's under the Advanced section on the bottom. If I click Advanced on the bottom, I have a button that says Disable Inheritance. Okay, you can't disable inheritance for one. It's sort of like, you're a parent and you have inheritance for all your children. You can't disown one child and say that you're not going to get inheritance. It's an all or nothing deal. And again, I can't explain why. It's just the way it is. So right now, it tells you what things you have access to and where you got it from.
That way the Jacob is under there then?
Yeah.
Because that's who I am. Right, that's who I'm logged in as. Yeah, let me switch over to the server. Because, it's amazing that, they look an awful lot alike. So let me go back to my folder here.
I guess it's where I was.
And data. Here we go. Okay. Back up here. Oh, that's why I was showing the example of how Jacob could do that as a user.
Yep.
Now I want to change the permissions. You can do it from the client if you're logged as administrator. So Jacob can see all the stuff, but he really won't be able to change anything. So, okay. Excellent point. I'm on Sales, Sales Manager, Properties, Security. I want to click on Advanced. I have this Disable Inheritance, but you can't do all. I still have the Jacob on there. Hang on a second. Make sure I don't put...
Yeah, I don't do that.
Here, let me get rid of this. This was what I was playing with before. I don't know why I would have done that. Hang on a second. Where I said don't give users rights. I don't know where...
You gave a user a right. I'm just joking.
Oh, I know why. I know why that's coming up that way. Yes, that's going to happen. I forgot that I created those folders. Jacob created a folder, and if you look at the properties of here, security, the creator is the owner. The creator will automatically put on as an individual item. You don't manage them as an individual person. So, okay.
Just showing you who created a folder in that.
And then they actually have all rights, so they're always going to have it. So if somebody creates something, so that's why I'm going to get rid of that. So just with Sales Manager. Okay, I'm back over here. Sales Manager, Properties, Security. And Jacob's still going to be there. But anyway.
Forget about
Okay.
him.
Advanced, Disable Inheritance. So you can't just get rid of some, but not without the others. And you have two options now. One is, okay, I want to keep track of what everybody had at some point, but I'm going to convert them all from being inherited instead of just flowing down to being a new implicit right. So I'm going to say that you as a salesperson is going to have these rights here, and the other people are going to have these rights. It's not going to flow down anymore. It's going to stop here, and I'm going to restart giving rights from here. It's kind of weird describing it. The other option is just saying, you know what, wipe everything out. Nobody has any rights beyond there. That doesn't go so well in some cases. It's going to mess things up. So keeping the rights, but just change them to explicit rights is what we're going to want to choose. So if you kind of look over here where they get the access from, these people are getting it from the D drive. These are getting from sales. Now as soon as I change it to this, they're not inheriting it from anywhere anymore. They're getting it a new list in this directory. So that's what I'm telling you. It's complicated and tedious. This is what we need to do to make this happen. So the first step was, in fact, to stop the inheritance from happening. The next step now is we can make modifications to this. We can get rid of sales now, because remember, see, these are all dark now because it's not inherited. So I can get rid of sales, and I can add the sales manager. Oh, no. I thought of a sales manager on here, don't I? Sales. Where's my sales manager group? My system restarted so many times I forgot what my snapshots were. I know I created all them. I hope I didn't lose my users.
And you'd want them to have all permissions.
And you would have them all permissions. Okay, some people are there. Okay, I'm just missing my sales manager. Whew. That's not bad. I was afraid that I lost more than that. Sales manager is Joshua, right? Okay. Now go back over here. Sales properties. Edit. Remove sales and add sales manager. And actually, I should be able to add Jacob does anything. Okay. So let's just see what happens when I work with my client now. Who knows? I should be able to create new folders within the sales area.
But not in the manager.
But I shouldn't even be able to see the sales manager. So hang on a second. Let's just go double check here. I really wish I could just get rid of him. Yeah.
Your SSD is failing.
It is. My drive is not going well.
Did you back it up?
None of the stuff I did today.
Well, so
Yes, I have basic backups, but
that's good. That is the first step.
come on. Come on. Okay, let's just try this one more time here. Okay, it just, whatever. So now I can't even see the sales manager folder. If I log out and log in as Joshua,
You should be able to see it.
I should be able to see it. And again, I apologize for my server not working well. Oh, that's right. I have to create a profile first. Come on.
Yeah, it takes forever.
I think they should take this feature off.
What?
I think they should take this feature off.
I agree.
All the operating system they do that. They go back and get new apps.
Yeah, yours went like 8 times.
Okay. Clicking on network, server 12, data. I have sales, and I have the sales folders plus the sales manager folders, and so that's exactly what should happen. Now that's based on the group. So if Joshua's gone and somebody takes over, as soon as you put them in that group, they'll instantly have access to that folder. Let me show you one more whole scenario dealing with like the shared area. So under shared, let's say we have a new folder. Oh, again, go back to the server. Getting all frazzled here. Okay, go to shared, and let's make a new folder for policies. This is an example of I want the whole company, to be able to, like, say there's an attendance policy, new tax document, attendance policy. Who should be able to access the policies? Who should be able to modify the policies? maybe administrator, maybe the human resource manager or the human resources department or whoever you want to choose. But right now, everybody has access to the policy folder. So we want to do the exact same process, but we want to kind of limit it a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is go to properties of it and go to security. And I need to stop the inheritance from happening first. So I disable the inheritance and I convert it to explicit permissions. Then I go back, and right now all my users have full rights. And I want to get rid of the modify and full rights. And I still want to add, let's do the HR manager. So make it very specific of who can do it. And the HR manager would have full rights. So do you see those two changes? The first change was I get rid of full control and modify so that the users are only going to have read and execute. And this is on the policies directory. And then I added the HR manager group and I gave them, him or her, I forgot what it was, full control to that folder.
So we're removing the users?
We're not removing users, we're modifying the users. This is the case where we're not getting rid of them, we're just limiting them.
But you disable inheritance, correct?
We have to disable inheritance first in order for that to take effect. So you go to security, advanced, disable inheritance, but make sure that you convert them all to explicit. Once you do that, then you're going to get all these things listed with users being still given full access, but you don't want them to have full access anymore. You just want them to have basically read-only access. What that looks like on the user side then is I go to my Windows 8, and we'll see if this take effect or not. I go to data, I look at shared, here's policies. I should be able to open the policy, but I shouldn't be able to save it. And I just did.
And it just
Are you logged in?
I'm logged in as just a regular old user. It takes a while sometimes for rights, and you can force policies to take effect right away. Let me just try signing out and signing back in.
Don't you have read, write, and execute actions?
Read and execute.
Just read and execute? It said read, write, and execute.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Where did it say that? Let me look. So here's Joshua. Network. Oh, here it is. Oh, I can just do it. Oh, where's my rights? Oh, did I ever click OK? Okay, HR manager should have all. Users should have read and execute. Oh, and write is still down there. Yep, I missed that. Way hidden down there is the write. It was hidden, so you have to get rid of write.
That's why it's easier almost to use the advanced, because then it'll tell you straight up the users have read and execute access, and that's it. Rather than scrolling through.
Oh, right. There's two different views for that. Setting security information on a file. It's taking a long time.
I'm confused because when I signed into Jacob, I can see the sales manager.
Then you didn't remove his rights then.
So you go into
Operations folder. You don't need that. You don't need no operations.
you go into the sales.
Yay, I can save it. Good. So I can save it. Cancel, don't save. Good. So I can still see it, but I can't change it. So I missed that checkbox for write.